Takafumi Takaoka's uncle, Shibasaki, spent 17 years in a coma after a severe car accident. No one believed in his return anymore, but in 2017 Takafumi was finally told that a relative had regained consciousness. The guy arrived at the hospital, and the relative seemed unhinged at first. He spoke in an incomprehensible language, constantly gesturing, but as soon as his uncle heard his native Japanese language he realized that he did return to his world from the one in which he had spent nearly 2 decades. While the man had been unconscious, his entire family had quarreled, so his nephew was the only one who wouldn't stop visiting him. Upon hearing this, the uncle decided to prove that he had indeed lived in another world. He tried to draw a glass of water to him with a spell, which scared Takafumi again. Deciding that his relative had finally lost his mind, the guy asked him to sign a self-support document since he had no way to pull a crazy person on himself. But at that moment the glass went up in the air and the surprised young man didn't finish his speech and discreetly tore up the application. As soon as Shibasaki starts to figure out where he is, he asks his nephew if his favorite game console still exists, and as soon as he finds out that it has long been displaced from the market by other companies, his uncle casts a spell erasing his memory so he doesn't have to worry about it. Takafumi asks a relative about the spell he used to erase his memory, and the uncle hands him a notebook in which he used to write the events of his life in the other world. Takafumi cries when he reads the notebook and asks for his memory to be erased as well. Takafumi takes uncle in and decides to use his powers to make money. The two men set up a channel to upload videos of uncle's tricks. Within the first few weeks they have earned a large sum of money. The uncle is surprised by the size of the apartment where the nephew lives, but he says that he used to rent it in 2 parts with a friend. The relative also wonders about the cell phone, modern food, and how quickly his nephew has grown. Takafumi asks his uncle to tell him about the friends he had in the other world, but the man evades the answer by saying that he was almost always alone. He then does open up and explains that he was always hunted as an orc because of his unpleasant appearance. Especially, there was one person who constantly bullied a man, despite he saved her life at their first meeting. Uncle was constantly being attacked, but now he is happy to be back, with the internet and the fact that he can communicate online with people from all over the world. He logs onto his channel and his joy is quickly lost. The multitude of comments from trolls with insults and accusations of performances make him very sad. Shibasaki asks his nephew for a phone he saw on one of the websites, but the guy says it's a very old model and impossible to use. Takafumi chooses a more modern model for his relative, but he asks to find him a phone with lots of buttons. Talking about breakthroughs in technology, Uncle tells his nephew that he too has invented something interesting. He managed to create a vessel that filled itself with water. This was a valuable discovery for the village, whose inhabitants were constantly suffering from thirst, but when they learned that the vessel was made by means of a spell, the inhabitants smashed it and attacked Uncle. Shibasaki backs up his story with a memory screen, and Takafumi sees everything with his own eyes. He sees his uncle fly to a store on the other side of the country and arrive from there with the goods he needs. In addition, Shibasaki has a pocket dimension, a portal from which he can get everything he had in the other world. When talking about his personal life, his uncle remembers a girl he helped in return for an intercourse. But then it was her turn to save the man and she demanded that he be by her side for the rest of her life as a thank you. For his uncle's birthday, Takafumi gives him a console and CD with his favorite game, making his relative very happy. But the boy doesn't want to play, he is interested in hearing more stories from life in the other world. Shibasaki tells his nephew about an evening when the whole village was going to celebrate something, but he did not linger at the party lest he become a victim again. When his uncle returned to his room, however, young Mabel came to him and the pair managed to chat. The girl became a man's first friend in his world. The men greet the new year by eating noodles and discussing Shibasaki's memories, and at the same time remembering the shows that Uncle loved so much before he fell into a coma. Walking with a relative, Takafumi meets his old friend Fujimiya, whom they haven't seen in a long time. The pair make arrangements for the girl to visit her buddy, but he forgets to warn his uncle. Fujimiya arrives at his friend's apartment and catches Shibasaki doing something strange. As soon as the man notices that he is watched, he rushes to the guest to erase her memory, but Takafumi manages to return in time to save the girl. The girl wonders why a grown man lives on his money and tries to reason with Takafumi, assuring him that his relative is clearly taking advantage of his kindness. Hearing this, Shibasaki suspects that the girl likes his nephew. Uncle even manages to read the girl's thoughts, but is distracted by the doorbell. Left alone with her buddy, Fujimiya offers him her help with the rent if he suddenly puts up with his uncle just for the money, but the guy does not agree to part with a relative. Takafumi returns home from the store, and just as he crosses the threshold, he sees an unusual sight: a surprised Fujimiya standing in front of him, held by her shoulders by the elf from Shibasaki's memories. An hour and a half earlier, Shibasaki's mail gets a message. He thinks it is not so valuable, but it turns out to be very important. The administration of the site where the guys have launched a channel has warned them about the change of policy. Now bloggers will not be able to earn income unless, of course, they have time to greatly increase the number of subscribers. Takafumi tries to find out why they don't have viewers, as every video collects a large number of views, but it turns out that everything is very simple. Shibasaki loves to talk to channel guests, but does not like to be polite and tolerant to their opinions, due to which people are constantly leaves his channel. To distract himself a little, his uncle remembers another story about his elf friend and tells it to his nephew. This time the story is about how Shibasaki, together with the girl, saved the town from an attack by a huge cyclops. Shibasaki finishes his story by giving his nephew advice never to go along with women and not to comply with their endless requests. Encouraged by his own conclusions, his uncle even wrote the story on the channel, asking viewers to discuss the issue. And then comments and likes began to grow immediately, opening the guy's eyes to social media in a new way. When Fujimiya arrives, she starts talking about a grown man lives on his nephew's money and has fun on social networking sites while he thinks about how to make a living. The girl tries to hide the fact that what really angers her is that she can't be alone with her boyfriend. After reading her thoughts, Shibasaki suggests that she move in with them all together and take up residence in Takafumi's room. The guy wants to get away from the awkward conversation and runs off to the store, leaving his relative and friend to talk. But Fujimiya is not in the mood for friendly conversation and abruptly rejects his friendship, reminding Shibasaki of his hard life in the other world. Realizing she overreacted, Fujimiya goes to her uncle's room, but when she opens the door, she sees a young elf woman in front of her. When Takafumi returns home, he recognizes her as uncle and guesses that he is using a forbidden spell that, if used frequently, can severely damage his personality. The guys go off to shoot another video as if nothing had happened, while Fujimiya is left standing there clapping her eyes. As she walks over to the table, the girl sees a memory screen and Shibasaki displays something from the girl's memory, her high school life and how ugly she was. Her uncle, as an elf, even jokes about not understanding how his nephew recognized his girlfriend on the street. But Takafumi says that appearance doesn't matter if there is true friendship between people. Uncle changes his appearance right on the video for the channel and gains a lot of views, making their advertising revenue grow strongly. Fujimiya tastes the coffee her friend poured her and notes its special taste, to which Shibasaki tells the girl that the money for the expensive beans he gave his nephew for his birthday. The girl remembers that she didn't give anything to her friend, so she decides to send him her beach photo from her high school days as a gift. But Takafumi doesn't appreciate the gift and quickly deletes the picture to avoid being caught up in a harsh article. The boy runs off to the store after receiving a message about discounts on coffee, and Uncle and Fujimiya ha another incident. Shibasaki accidentally spills the drink on the girl and freezes her to prevent her from getting burned. When the spell was broken, the girl had to run to a hot shower to warm herself up and change into Takafumi's dry clothes. The boy returns just as her friend manages to put on only his shirt, but Fujimiya doesn't mind seeing her like this. On the contrary, she comes to his room hoping to continue, but Takafumi puts up a flag calling his uncle home to erase his memory so he will forget what he saw in the bathroom. But Fujimiya demands that his friend keep his memories, repeating that she doesn't mind what happened in the bathroom. The group sits down to celebrate Takafumi's birthday, and Uncle decides to show the youth his memories of the first time he tasted hot drinks. Uncle spent that night with his elf friend, after which he surprised everyone with his courage by inviting the girl to his room. Now, after drinking a can or two, Shibasaki persuades Fujimiya to let him escort her home, and when the girl refuses, he lifts himself and the young men into the sky, not controlling the situation. Since then, Takafumi tries not to rest with his relative in the same company anymore, much less let him near hard liquor. Thank you for watching.